Having no idea what to expect from a made-for-cable sequel to the 1979 original that blew my mind, I was immediately impressed that When a Stranger Calls Back's opening 30-minute sequence, similar in tone to the original film but definitely weirder, was as good as it was. A babysitter is menaced both by an anonymous caller and by someone who keeps coming to the door asking for help. Things seem to get supernatural and uber creepy, and honestly, this opening scene was infinitely better than anything in the first film.
He's in there with you. Look into the living room.
And then we jump ahead 5 years. What the hell? Oh god, what has this sweet child done to her hair? Now she's some kind of hockey hoser. Anyway, she's in college now, Canadian college no doubt, and someone seems to be vaguely messing with her in her apartment, but also there's no way anyone should be able to get in or out. She tells her counselor, who just so happens to be Carol Kane, believer of the babysitters. She requires backup for the situation, so she calls in, you guessed it, Charles Durning, Babysitter Avenger. It's almost like this is a pilot episode for another Law & Order spin-off, focusing exclusively on babysitter harassment past and present. They investigate both her current situation and her previous encounter from 5 years earlier, since the whatever the hell that thing was never apprehended. As they check out the house where she was initially babysitting, Charles Durning delivers what might be the silliest line of dialogue I think I've ever heard.
This is gonna sound crazy, but we're looking for a ventriloquist.
I legit almost did a spit take when he said that, and I wasn't even drinking anything at the time. I laughed for a good solid minute. I had to cover my mouth in order to not wake up anyone else in the house. I was not prepared for that bit of dialogue. And things keep getting weird. This whole time I'm wondering either how this ties into the original film, or what supernatural force is menacing these people. But these characters never even mention such things, and really keep hammering the ventriloquism angle, to the point where the movie basically reveals that it is a ventriloquist, and I was utterly baffled. Then everything ends with an insane visual effect that really took balls to pull off, but as the end credits roll, you're left with nothing but questions like, who the hell was that dude, and why was he doing this stuff? Why did it seem like he had superpowers? It's baffling that this is written and directed by Fred Walton, the same man who wrote and directed the first film, which was all about fleshing out that villain into a real human being. Here? Who the hell knows who or what this dude was? Like the first film, it definitely might be worth a viewing, but man is it frustrating. In 2006, When a Stranger Calls was remade, although without the participation of any of the original cast or crew. Going in, it seemed like a weird one to remake, what with technology being what it is now, and also with Scream having basically remade and one-upped the entire premise already. The credits are edited by terrible people, and I was worried that the entire film was going to be this kind of bullshit, but thankfully it stops as soon as the credits do. Tessa Thompson is promised to be in this though, and that'll help. Our main character Jill is grounded for going over her minutes, so her cell phone is useless. There you go, tech problem solved. Her dad is Agent Coulson, and he takes her to her punishment, which is to babysit some kids in a ridiculous house, instead of going to the bonfire that all her friends are attending. Cool, a cat scare, something neither of the first two films needed. Neat. And this movie is basically what I thought the original film was supposed to be, as it's almost entirely this one night and this one location. Some of the dialogue is word for word from the original script, although it takes almost 50 minutes before we get a "have you checked the children" call. But at least she goes and checks the children. The caller ends up being this shadowy murder man who might as well be a T-1000. He's almost unstoppable and unidentifiable, but they did get Lance Henriksen to do his voice, so that helps. And of course it all ends poorly. On its own, there's really no good reason to recommend watching this remake, as it just doesn't offer much that other films have already done better. But if you've watched the original and the sequel, you'll no doubt be curious about this one.